Welcome to the House of Legends podcast, where great women become exceptional. I am your host, Graciela, founder and CEO of the House of Legends by Graciela, a mindset coach and mother of three beautiful kids. My mission and passion is to provide you with the tools that will allow you to unlock and bring out the best version of yourself, which is the key to all change. Some of those tools are mindset, identity work, and emotional mastery. Not only that, but I will also bring you powerful conversations with legends like you, showcasing their journey, life work, and allowing us to learn from their experiences and insights. So don't miss an episode. Tune in each week to the House of Legends podcast and let's unlock the power of your own legend. Let's dive in today's episode.
So let me know how long you want it to go so I can kind of gauge where we're
Let's do 35 minutes, something like
okay,
that.
perfect. So now it's 9. Okay, so about like 9:40-ish or yeah, 9:40, right?
Something like that. Yeah, 40,
Okay,
40.
perfect. Just so I can have an idea.
Awesome. Welcome back to the House of Legends, where great women become exceptional. I am your host, Graciela, and in today's episode, oh my gosh, I do. Before we press record, this was a really exciting conversation, but I know many of you ladies will really enjoy it. We want to talk about billions. We want to talk about spirituality. We want to talk about a new paradigm that our guest is now. It's leading. What I was mentioning to her that this is not just a new paradigm, but it's a new movement. And when I saw this woman for the first time, I was just like, I want to have a conversation with her, and I just it was one of those days that where you see someone just like and you feel this pull towards that woman or man. And I immediately contact her, and thanks God she said yes. So now she's here, Jocelyn Lucum. She's a mindset coach, quantum manifestation guide, leader, teacher, and she's, like I said, with this new paradigm, the spiritual billionaire. If you don't get turned on with that title, I don't know if you're gonna turn on. Like, I'm just telling you, I was just like, I wanna have this conversation with this woman. All right, Jocelyn, if you can introduce yourself, let us know who you are and what got you to where you are right now.
Well, first, I just want to say thank you so much. It's such an honor to be on your podcast. And when you first reached out, you were so powerful and magnetic that I was excited to be on. And I'm so grateful for what you're doing and your podcast and rippling out into the world. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
You're so welcome. Jocelyn,
Um,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so I've been in this world since 2003, I would say, and lived in 12 countries and have been observing the world and been researching and studying leaders and millionaires and billionaires and coaches and mentors, and through that whole journey and people, just people in general, like even just living in 12 countries, realizing we're all just human. And one of the breakthroughs that I had is we're all souls and all our souls are same power but different. And we're all, different characters in this lifetime, but we're all souls, same power but different. And when we can really connect from that level, we can own our own power and we can see them in their power as well too. Like even, the hierarchy of I used to be so intimidated by CEOs, or I used to work with the top luxury brands. And I used to feel that intimidation until I met everybody and realized we're all still human. We all still have the same stuff that we're dealing with day in, day out. And we're all still, like maybe they're an expert in their field, but I'm an expert in my field. And so we come together and we share our knowledge. And so that kind of like creates this beautiful level playing ground where we get to own our power and bring it powerfully into the world. So when I first started, like tuning into the spiritual billionaire, at first it seemed like too big and it seemed unrealistic. And people told me my whole life that I was unrealistic. And that's basically how I created all the success in my life because I was unrealistic. You know what I mean? So when I
Totally.
was younger, they made it to be a bad thing. They kept saying, get your head out of the clouds, come back down to earth, be realistic. And so for a while I did. But in my last career, I was like, no, they told me, no, you can't do it. I said, watch me. And I did. Same thing with this. Like it was so big. And so I've been thinking about this for about a year and a half now. And I wasn't, it took a while to build up to becoming the version of me that could bravely and powerfully and vulnerably speak it to the world. And when I did, that's when everything changed, which then brought so much more confirmation into the spiritual billionaire. It's been leading up for years and years and years. And now we get to have it all. We get to not have to sacrifice ourselves all the time to help people. I realized through this whole process that yes, I did that my whole life. And I was the overgiver and I was the overpleaser and I was always burnt out all the time because I just did it because I felt like, that was the way that I was going to help. And I always put myself down to lift them up because I felt like that was the way that I would help, like being the martyr, right? Until I realized that I can do that, but I can reach this amount of people. If I do it the other way through the spiritual billionaire, if I stand in my power, if I live my best life, if I show people what's possible and break the 4 minute mile, then I lead through inspiration. And inspiration is a self-charging battery because I then get to live my best life. And then people then get to recognize if she can do it, I can do it. And so then it becomes inspiration and it becomes this toward motivation that they're coming to it in their power, saying, if she can do it, I can do it, versus me being the fixer, which is them giving me their power to fix it, right? It's so much more powerful this other way. And then we all get to have it all. And if you think about all the most powerful people in this world, why are you inspired by them?
Because they're living their best life, not because they're trying to fix me. Yeah.
Yeah, but also they're not suppressing. Like they're in their truth. They're living their truth. They're living for everyone. They're living for them, they're living for the world, and they're sharing it with the world. And before I used to think, oh, if I do that, I'm going to make people feel bad, right? And that's why I used to make myself small. But I realized that these people inspire me. They don't make me feel small. Like just having them as a mentor, just saying that I know them makes me feel more powerful. And so if I really want to be the change in the world, I get to become one of them. And imagine if all of us did that, the world would be a completely different place, right? Like we've just suppressed ourselves for so long to fit in the box because that's how we were raised. And now it's so simple. Just shatter the box. But there's, years of conditioning to remove, which is what I do with my clients. But yeah, it's so exciting.
Yeah, it is so exciting. And you mentioned some of the parts that I would love to bring as well. That when we know that we have a message, that we know that we're meant for more, and we have this inner pull, we encounter the condition, we encounter the limitations, and sometimes we back to those limitations, and we try to, like you said, just try to fix him, try to give over gift, try to do many things that at the final of the day doesn't serve us and doesn't serve others. And I think one of the things as well that stop many of us, including myself in some areas, is that we are afraid of our own potency and of what other people will say. But at the final of the day, if we think are really clear, people, I mean, I don't, if I see someone, I think in that person's 5 minutes or less than 5 minutes, and then I come back and I think about myself or I think about my kids or something. We don't even, and we think that people are just like putting on their eyes, and that is not even true. So I think yeah, like, and when we acknowledge that, like, hey, I'm living my life and it looks so good, but it doesn't feel right, or I know that I can do more, or I know this movement, like the spiritual billionaire, is coming to me for a reason, but I don't know if it's gonna bother some people. It's like it's a matter of like allowing ourselves to the idea take over and fully embrace it. And I do believe that many women are now leading different movements, but also this also comes as well with a big responsibility of working in ourselves every single day. And I think that is a huge part, because when we are leading something big, when we are not only living our best lives or inspiring new people, we are creating this ripple effect, and that is comes with the responsibility that sometimes the paradigm doesn't want it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And the thing is, like, what I realized through this journey is people are always going to make you out to be who they need for your story.
Mm.
And so once I realized that, I realized there's nothing I can do. Like they're going to judge me and they're going to project on me whether I like it or not. So why not just be my truth? Why
Oh,
not just be my potency? Because in my last career, I created all this success, but I was still doing it for what it looked like. I didn't have that fulfillment from the inside. Like I just kept chasing the carrot because if I had more, then, they'd like me more and, I'd have more success and they'd be more proud of me and all of these things. And so it looked incredible on the outside, but on the inside, I had anxiety and I had depression and I had all these things. And so it was a gift from the universe. It was a very traumatic gift that in 2016 my grandpa passed a week and a half later. My grandma passed a week later. My mom had a stroke and my whole life flipped upside down. It all happened in a month. And so I flew back and forth from Hong Kong to Hawaii every 2 weeks and eventually moved home because it wasn't sustainable and went right down into all my childhood issues that I thought I had cleared, but I hadn't lived home for 20 years. And so it really just came up. And I realized that all my power was external. I did have some inner power, but most of it was external power. And so that last chapter was the greatest gift to show me that external power and what it looks like is empty. And so I went on this like deep journey of inner work to find my truth, to find out what success looks like to me, to help me to build so much inner power that it didn't matter what other people thought, whether they approved, whether they liked it or anything, to know that I'm building this train and this train is going. Like I have my vision and I have my mission and it's going. And you can hop on and you can hop off at any point, but it's not stopping and it's not derailing anymore because before I used to always like check in. Does this sound like a good idea? Does it sound like I'm on the right track? What do you think about this? Now it's like I check in with my truth. I check in
yeah.
with my soul and I ask what's going to bring the biggest value to my vision. And I just keep going. And I know that the more that I speak this truth with potency, the more that not only is my speed going to pick up speed, but like the faster that I'm going to get there, the more it's going to snowball, but the more magnetic we become. And then you let your energy do the work for you, which is the spiritual billionaire. Instead of chasing butterflies, you build a beautiful garden and you let the butterflies come to you. You speak your most powerful, authentic truth. And I've been, playing with this for a while and I've been testing it out because I don't teach anything until I embody it first, right? And so I'll do little experiments here and there and it blows my mind. Like I was sharing with you before about how, I was reprogramming myself for the hustle. And then I knew I wanted to speak on stages around the world, and I thought I was going to build up to, to stages here, stages in California, Hong Kong, and then New York. But as I was reprogramming and recoding the hustle to become more in alignment with the spiritual billionaire, then New York dropped in, and I got to speak on a stage in New York at New York Climate Week at the World Trade Center about quantum leadership. And that was my first stage. And so we get to quantum leap. Like I knew I wanted to teach corporate workshops, but I didn't think I was good enough. And why would they take me seriously? And do they value what I have to say? So I reprogrammed all of that. And then my friend out of the blue message said, "Hey, I have a job. Are you available? It's last minute." I said, "Sure, I could do that." I did it. I ended up working with the CEO of the company, told him what I do. He said, "I have a team to train. Send me a proposal." I said, "Awesome." Sent him a proposal and I did my first corporate workshop. So that's a spiritual billionaire to me. It's about we take aligned action, but we do the inner work that removes the blocks that allows us to quantum leap to get into the spiritual billionaire. Otherwise, we will, make millions, but billions is just like, what? That doesn't make sense. That's like in my lifetime, is that possible? And whether we reach billionaire status or not, like I always say, shoot for the moon, and if you land amongst the stars, that saying, that's amazing as well too, right? But getting to the spiritual billionaire is not going to be through the push, through the force, through the dominance. That is the billionaire way, and that's exhausting. And how many of us want to actually sacrifice our whole life to work 24 hours a day and not be with our kids, and not have deep, loving relationships with our family? Not many of us, but if we do it the spiritual billionaire way and we get our energetics in alignment and we take the line action and then the universe drops in and blows our mind.
Mhm.
That's the spiritual billionaire. And then we get to have it all. We get to have the more we love, the more we speak our truth, the more we live, the more we feel the wind on our face and just like, be here, the more magnetic we become, the more we move the blocks, the more the universe drops in things that blow our minds.
That feels so right. And I
Yeah.
think right here, when it comes to removing things, and this is something that I would love to emphasize, because we can have the best idea, like you said, spiritual billionaire, and if you're feeling really, really good, taking action, but if we don't remove literally those blocks of unworthiness of who I am to want this, or the self self limitations or things that we borrow from other people, at one point or another will self sabotage, or will um attract things, but they will stay for a second and then we're going to snap out from that state. So it's important to understand what are the feeling, those contractions that we feel, what, like you mentioned, having this idea of spiritual billionaire, and even to think about billions. And sometimes one of the things that I was doing the other day, I was listening, like you mentioned, that you study amazing people that are doing amazing things in the world. I was studying this guy, and he was mentioning that he has a real estate company, right? He does development and all those things. And one guy asked him, "How much are you bringing to the table?" He's like he's all about it. He's really emotional intelligent, all those things. So he's really grounded. And he said 5 billion a year. And I was just thinking, sometimes we think about that 100K or 200K a month or a million a month or a million a day as a lot. And there are people with billions of dollars. He has an amazing family. I mean, he looks great. He has his physical in order and check. And I was like, huh, he's only accepting the ideas that we are rejecting. And
Mm.
like sometimes it's like you said, it's that easy as that. And it's removing things and accepting fully the call. And the goal is to bring the movement of a spiritual billionaire, and with you living that, bringing more women. What amazing will be that. That
Yes.
yeah.
Like basically, we are all creating it together. Like your podcast, my podcast, everybody's programmed. When this conversation becomes mainstream, we create a tipping point, and then it becomes the new reality. And I wouldn't say that it was a movement because to me, movements are there's still like a I don't know how you would say it. There's still like a force, like there's something that we have to push forward or like
Mhm.
dominate, or there's like an energy behind a movement versus this is just an unfolding. This
Oh
is
God.
just the next era. This has been written for many, many generations. There have been many women and men that have spoken this truth, and have been persecuted for it in the past. But because they have been saying it over and over and over and over, this has now become the point that we get to talk about this right now. And we then get to compound it and make it mainstream. And so there's no shutting it down anymore. Like it's been generations in the making of making this. Not that there was anything wrong with the past generation. Like I always say, like they did the best they could with the resources they had. And
Yeah.
our job as the next generation is to evolve it because that's evolution. And so we take the parts we love and we transcend the parts that aren't so healthy for us anymore after we experience it, right? And so
Yeah.
for me, it's just the unfolding of what's coming. Like it's inevitable as long as we all take
Yeah.
aligned action. And the more of us that speak it, the faster it's going to come into this reality. And you're already seeing examples of it, right? I did a post about normalized billionaire because billionaires are the new millionaires. Like when we were growing up, it was the millionaire and like, oh, you can't ever become a millionaire. I saw a quote somewhere. It's like someone said, I'm going to become a millionaire, and everyone in the room was laughing except the millionaire. You know what I mean? And so it's like if you know and you have this calling, you just listen to it. To me, if you have a dream or a vision, it's written. It's written in the stars. It's your soul showing you what it came here to experience. So if you take aligned action, that's the potentiality that can happen if you take the leaps. If you don't take the leaps, it's a nice dream. But it's also proven in quantum physics, past, present, future is in the now. And so that's a future echo of a future memory showing you what's coming. Just like I used to dream about being in this house and I used to drive in front of it when I used to drive my son around for naps every single day and looking at this house, envisioning us being there, seeing us playing in the yard and eating at the table. And then one day I was playing in the yard and I was like, oh my God, I can see me driving in front, seeing this echo of me playing in the yard with my son and my husband as I was driving in the car. And it's just an echo. So it's there for you if you desire it and if you're brave and you're courageous enough to claim it. And that's the only difference between the people that are making it work and the people that aren't, is that bravery, that courage, that resilience to be able to hold the pain, to hold the disappointment, to hold the rejection, to hold the abandonment, the judgment, to hold all of that because it knows where the train is going and it doesn't stop, and it's creating that reality for all of us.
That is so powerful, and I love the way that you explain it about those echoes. Like those are already those possibility realities are already there. Everything is just in the present. There's no past and neither future. Is all in the present. It and the things that we get to do or that we get to experience are actually coming from the place that we're choosing to focus our energy and attention. And uh and the way you explain about instead of calling this a movement, calling it unfolding, it sounds even more powerful because it's like you said, it's inevitable until
Yes.
it's just here, it's already here. And I strongly agree with you that sometimes when we before when we're younger, like thinking about millions, it was just like, oh, this is so much. But right now it's not. Like the technology changing, the resources that we have in our hands are just really powerful in order for us to remove the limitations, remove the quote unquote blocks, and really bringing our mission or vision into fruition in a big way. And I think the billions, it's now the new millions, like you mentioned.
And also, it's not even about the money, right?
Wow.
Like
Yeah.
it's about us claiming and normalizing it so that we could be a match
Mm.
for it.
Yeah.
But it's really just about the way of being. Like the money gets to come as you unfold into your power. Like I said, you take the line action, you do the thing, you receive the clients. And so, I mean, like what comes with the clients is the money, right? It's
Yeah.
the it's the it's the benefit of doing what you came here to do and what you came here to experience. But we don't have to focus on the money if we're doing the things. And we know that if we just keep doing the things, the universe will drop in the clients, drop in the opportunities, drop in all of these things. We don't need to figure that part out. We don't need to figure out the how. Like I used to always think like 10 steps forwards and this and then like a million things. Now I just tune in. I have a soul evolution process that I do. So if you want it, just DM me and I'll send it to you for free. Um, and it's something that I just do. And I just like, okay, well, what's my next step of evolution? Like, and I see my visions. I see all the things. I see the stages I desire to be on and the workshops I desire to teach and the retreats and all of the clients that I'm calling in and the conversations we're having about the breakthroughs and the celebrations we're having because of the things that they had. And then I do this thing where I like brain dump everything out. So I really have to learn the name of this, but it's like you draw a circle in the center and you write
Yeah.
your business, and then you do all the spokes of all of the different actions that you can take. And then once I brain dump all of those things out of the potentiality of all the things that I can do that are going to bring value to my business, I tune in and I see, okay, so out of all of this, what is going to bring the most value to my vision today? What leap do I get to take today? What do I get to reprogram today? And sometimes it's resting
Yeah.
because you can't be magnetic if you're exhausted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And other times it's like going live, right? And, a lot of people, like for me, that was a really hard thing to do. And so I'm always like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll do it. But then I never did it, right? Until now, it's like, okay, my soul's like, actually, that's the thing. That's the most uncomfortable, but it's going to bring the biggest quantum leaps. So do it, right? Like I told you before I spoke this truth, I was doing posts that everybody liked. It was very, blanket. Everybody was like, okay, this is nice. I like it. Until I started like really speaking my truth, things didn't really grow for me. And it not only did it grow, it quantum leap. Like I told you when I was doing wealth codes, I was hoping to have, 100 people. And I thought like having a little over 100 people would be amazing. And then we ended up having 987 people registering. And then I told you the podcast that I had recorded like a few months before
Yeah.
that, but I wasn't brave enough to put it out, so I just deleted it because I was like, what are people going to think? How dare I claim this? All of these things, and I deleted it. But I recorded it again last week in my full potency, and within a week, like the most that my podcast had ever gotten on YouTube was 20 views. It was normally around 7 or something, and it had jumped to 320 something within a couple days because the potency is what people recognize. And that's one of the things that I learned from all of the incredible women that and leaders that I've studied is the potency of their truth. And that's why I invited all of them to speak at my Wealth Codes event because all of them said the same thing. It's when they were their most authentic self and they did it and everybody said they couldn't and they did it anyways and they did it in pure alignment and they spoke their truth. That's when their
Mhm.
business took off. And that's when things started shifting for me as well now. And it's so simple. It's so simple, but it's so hard.
It is, yeah, I'm totally agree with that. And one of the things that you were saying about money and early stage, I was having a conversation as well. We were recording about money. We were talking about money. I think today is just all about money. I'm telling you, we were talking about money, and we were having this conversation about women still having to justify. I I do have so many gifts. I am an entrepreneur. I do have this gift, and I'm doing this for the people. It's like, and I was just like, at one point, I was just like, stop it. It's like, you know what? If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a service provider, that is just like the standard. Like you love people, amazing. You have an amazing product, but you have to understand that also as well that it's an exchange, and you don't have to justify. And I was just getting really, really like heated. I was like, when the fuck you gonna justify your prices? If you can take me 15 minutes, you can take me from this to this, I'm going to pay you whatever you want. I don't
Yes.
need the whole fucking hour. I don't pay you for a fucking hour. And I was just getting really like that. And this woman, she was looking at me like, I never see you that way. It's like, yes, it's enough to justify and trying men who are making billions, who are making even this guy, he has so many chairs. Oh, I mean, he's the CEO, I think he's the CEO of the BlackRock. He has under his fucking belt 7 trillion of dollars, 7 trillion, and we're talking about like he's that man is like 67, 60 something years. He's not justifying himself. He's so fucking confident. And here we're, I'm not doing this because of the money or the money's gonna come. Like, shut up that fucking shit. Like, right? You have to justify it. If I want that, it's just because it's coming from my soul. And this lady's like, you have to be a money coach. It's like, it's not about that. It's like, really, like, if something excites you, it's because it's coming from your soul. We don't have
Yes.
to justify it. It's time to eradicate that bullshit of like, I'm doing this because of this. Like, and one of them, like I said, it was another another lady in the call. She was like, I have to say something, and I'm doing my business because of the people, not because of the money. It's like, that's cool for you, but why you justify? Don't you
Mm.
justify it? And she was kind of like that. It's like, hey, don't get offended. Just see this as a mirror. Why you have to justify? And I was
Yeah.
like, I'm not justifying myself. If I charge in whatever for an hour, it's because I know that I've been working, not because all the things that I've been doing, because no one put me on those containers and all that. And oh, because I'm investing, then people have to invest in myself. That is bullshit. I'm doing that because of me. But if I
Hmm.
can help you to close the gap, I will not justify my prices. I will not justify what I desire. And it's like right now, also when we're talking about spiritual billionaire, will make you more. What are the things when we talk about spirituality? It's like I was sharing this example as well, and and for all of the listeners that drive a Toyota or Kia, don't offense, all right? Like, who told you that it's more spiritual to drive a fucking Toyota or Kia, whatever the fuck, that a Bentley or a something like that? Who told you? What if that Bentley, that Porsche, some people call Porsche or Porsche, that is in alignment with your mission? You know what I mean? From the inspiration. So we have to also stop justifying why the money. It just not like you said, normalizing that energy in our lives.
Yes. And
Yeah.
that's the thing is the justification is we have like when I stop justifying to the
Oh,
people of why I'm doing and like even to the simple things of honoring my sacred yeses and sacred nos. Like
oh,
if someone says, "Hey, can you do this?" Like I just tune in and before I used to have a reason why it's a no. But now it's just a no. I don't even need to figure out for myself why it's a no. Before I used to like I'd feel it's a no and I couldn't explain why, so I had to come up with a reason why it's a no and waste all that time and energy writing that to them to let them know versus just it's a no for today. I can't tell you why, but it's a no for today because I'm honoring myself. Like I don't need to justify, not even to them, I don't even need to justify it to me. Because a lot of times my soul guides me to do something that doesn't make sense. And so my brain is trying to justify it or make sense of it. And now I'm like, I don't need to make sense. I get to live in the unknown. I get to live in the magic of the unknown where things get to blow my mind in every single second of every single day. So I don't need to know why my soul is guiding me
oh,
to do
that's so
this.
fun.
I just get to do it and I don't have to figure out what's going to happen after I do it. I just get to do it and let it unfold. And every single day I get to do it and let it unfold and do it and let it unfold. And I get to honor my journey and I got to honor everyone's journey. I don't have to judge their journey anymore to feel better about myself because that's what I used to do because it was the power struggle, you know, like we always were raised to compare and compete. And so I had to be better than you and all of this stuff, or I had to poke holes in your thing to feel better about myself. Now it's just because I know I don't need any of that. Now I just get to love on myself in pure love and I get to love on them knowing that they're on a different journey.
Yeah.
And that's their journey. And they're exactly where they're meant to be on their journey. Otherwise they wouldn't be there. And I'm exactly where I'm meant to be on my journey. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. Like it looks like I'm trying to play catch up I used to try and play catch up all the time, but really I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. I'm climbing the mountain and I'm here on the mountain and I need to be here in order to get to here, you know? And so there's nothing wrong with being even at the bottom of the mountain because that means that there's a bigger mountain that I'm going to be climbing. And so it's exactly, and so we don't need to justify anything anymore, and we get to have it all. Our
Oh,
souls, if our souls desire to have a luxury experience in this lifetime, it gets to.
yeah.
And the benefit of it is if we do it in alignment, not only do we get to experience luxury, we get to bring other people luxury as well. We get to bring other people alignment. And so we all get to have it all. And there's no more, like, I know in the beginning, for me, even saying I wanted $1 million coming from my, very like a suppressed background or martyrship background, right? Like I was like, oh, and people are like, oh, money and this. And I'm like, yeah, but how do you think we're going to actually make a difference in this world? Like the
Yeah.
people that are running the world
The money.
make it with the money, right? And so if you want to create a nonprofit, how did I open my school in Nepal? It was through the money that that I created, that I raised through all of these things. And so money is not evil, but there's nothing wrong. Like it's just a paradigm that we just get to shift.
Yeah.
And
True.
when we shift that paradigm and when the spiritual leaders become, like one of my mentors said, become the ones that are the highest earning, the world is going to completely change because if people lead from this pure love and for a win-win for all, like that's my thing. It's like win-win for all. I get to have it all and you get to have it all. Is this a win-win for me and is this a win-win for you? And if it is, let's do it. And if it's not in alignment. The world
Mm.
will completely change. Not only will we get to live our best life, but everybody will get to live their best life. And how, like, it's so easy to do. We transform the world from the inside out, but it comes from us pulling all our energy back into us. And I noticed that I used to try and fix things all the time and do things all the time and like have an issue with someone and hope that they would change. But once I realized that I have the power, that I'm the mirror that they're reflecting off of or responding off of. So if I want the relationship to change, I do the inner work. I realize who I am and I become that version of me. And then all of a sudden they shift. And it's been happening over and over in my life, in my businesses and everything. So now I'm not even externally focused. I'm like, okay, if this is going on, what do I get to shift on the inside to bring me different results? And then I just focus on that, and my whole life just keeps like quantum leaping. Like who I am today is completely different than who I was last year. It's like I've lived multiple lifetimes in a year because I've taken my power back from the external world and focused on the internal world and let the universe blow my mind with quantum leaps that just did not make sense. It's just like dropped in and I was like, holy, like, oh my God, is this real? Until I'm like on stage there or doing something, then it becomes real, right? But until you lead up to it, it's like, oh my God, like, could it be this easy?
Yeah,
And I say easy in the sense of the universe dropping it in, but the inner work is not. The inner
it's
work
not.
takes commitment, right? So it's a different type of work. It's more of a being versus a doing.
Yeah, indeed. And like you mentioned, when we are taking our power back of trying to change people, trying to change the situations, or like I love the example that you put about the mirror. I mean, we don't expect the mirror smiles back. We have to smile. We have to do the thing, and we have to also understand that there's a gestation period. Even if we're changing something right now, it's not gonna happen in 1 second. It could be. It could be. But it's like one of the analogies that I love to use is like if you're pregnant, you're pregnant. Like if
Yes.
you're with a spiritual billionaire, you're pregnant. There's no like, oh, you know what? I'm getting impatient. You're pregnant. Even if you have 1 month, 3 months, you're pregnant. There's no way back. Well, yeah, there's no way
That's
back.
so funny that you say that because I didn't really start showing until I was 6 months pregnant. So for 6 months, I was like so frustrated because I wanted to have a bump. Like I wanted to like not just
Up in
feel
the belly.
sick. Like I wanted to like have something, like to like
I'm
feel
pregnant.
pregnant. Yeah. And that's the same thing with everything in our life. Like it is what it is till it isn't.
Mm, I love that
I
phrase.
did a post about that the other day as well too, because that's my favorite saying. That's what got me through everything is what it is till it isn't. So I'm doing the inner work, like you plant the seed and it looks like nothing's happening, but the roots are growing underneath, but you don't see anything on the top and you water it and you water it and you just keep planting it. And then all of a sudden one day it sprouts because it is what it is till it isn't. But we forget that all this stuff is happening. Like we're literally becoming the person that can hold everything or that's becoming the energetic match for the thing to drop in or removing the block so that it can drop in because right now it's trying to make its way to us but it's going through all these doubts and beliefs and
Same.
traumas from the past and all these things and so we just get to remove them so that it can drop in faster and so if we really hold that but that comes from that knowing that our dreams and our visions are inevitable if we just keep going and we just keep taking the leaps and we just never give up if you know that, like Disney, he got rejected 33 times before the 34th time he got the loan. What if he gave up on the 33rd time?
That's true.
But
Or
but how would you also show up knowing that you just have to do it 34 times and you're going to get it? How would you show up every single day live? How would you show up doing all these things? Like Anthony Robbins, apparently his first time he taught his big program at Unleash Your Power or something, the first time he didn't sell anything and he had booked everything out. So he had paid his four friends with pizza and soda to teach them the program for 4 days because he knew where the train was going and nothing was going to stop him. So how do we then show up that way and know that we're going to the gym every day, we're practicing, we're getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and eventually we're going to be strong enough that the universe says, okay, you're ready, here you go
mm,
and it's going to blow your mind. So just remind yourself, just like that, in an instant, everything can change. And so it's those moments, but that doesn't happen all the time. You have to be able to hold the void for 80% of the time. You know
yeah.
what I mean? You have to do the work and you have to cultivate that knowing so that those 20% can drop in more and more and more.
Yeah, I love the analogy that you put about the gym because even if you're 50 pounds overweight, let's say, or 20, even if you have the macros on point, the exercises, the mindset on point, in one day, in 1 week, it's not gonna happen. I promise you that. But the first month you're gonna notice, the second, the third month it could happen. So
Yeah,
it's
and it happens where you're like all of a sudden you see it. Like you see someone you're like, "Oh my gosh," or you look in the mirror and you're like, "Oh my gosh, all of a sudden how did this happen?" It's just like it's just this like crazy thing that we we expect results and we focus on the results. And when we focus on the results, we kill the magic because we're like, it's not here yet. So we mustn't be good enough, or we must not be doing it right, or why isn't it here yet? And that's like digging up the seed to see if the roots are growing. And so what's going to happen when you do that? You're going to kill the plant, right?
Yeah,
And so we do that though. We beat ourselves up and then we wonder why it's not here. It's because we're resisting it. It's like what you resist persists. If you only want to be here and you're not happy where you're here right now, you're going to stay here
yeah,
until you're happy and you're content and you're fulfilled. I mean, you can still move, but not as fast as we would like, right? You're still going to grow.
yeah.
But we want a quantum leap. We're quantum leap into the spiritual billionaire. We're not just, gonna make millions and all of that. We're going into the spiritual billionaire. So that takes quantum leaps and that takes, like really mindful control and honoring and authentic truth and bringing that powerfully to the world and all of these things. And being able to be strong in the unknown, like holding that void until it shows up.
Mm, yeah, that's so true. And understanding that, like you said, this beautiful unfoldment is already here. This unfolding, constant unfolding.
But it is because here's the crazy thing. If I had started my business, and all of a sudden, I had received all these clients and done my first $1 million year. I would not have gotten as strong as I am right now. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have done all the inner work. I wouldn't have become the person that I am now that's brave enough to speak my magic to the world. I would have continued to be suppressed. I would have continued to, be, cookie cutter and please it. Like I would not be who I am. And so
Mhm.
when the universe is, or God, universe, divine, your soul, whatever you want to call it, isn't giving you what you think you need right now, it's because that's not what you need right now. It's giving you exactly what you get to have to receive the things. But when you resist that, instead of just like leaning into it and being like, okay, it's not here yet. What do I get to do? What do I get to
Oh,
cultivate? How do I get to go to the gym today or make myself stronger to become the person so that it then shows up instead of being like, I wish it was here. Why isn't it here? All those things, right? Like we need to know that sometimes you can't just become a black belt. Like you start
yeah.
through the levels of the belt. And then one day you wake up and you're the black belt, but you don't all of a sudden snap your fingers and wake up and be like, okay, I'm a black belt. Bring me everything, because you'll get crushed.
Yeah, I love that. And I think this analogy of the Abraham Hicks, and I know you know her, she's like, if you have momentum, or you want to start momentum, and your train is going at 100 miles per hour in one way, if you wanted to make it 100 miles per hour in the opposite way, you can do that. There's like magic called miracles, but it's gonna be hard on the body. It's gonna be hard on everything. Like, and it is like if some we want this thing and it's not coming in the way that we want, or in the, I don't know, the timeline or deadline that we want. It's because something inside us needs to be shifted or recalibrated in order for us to hold it and maintain it, because you don't want the pump. You don't want just to have it and just like
Yes.
snap out from your existence. This applies for clients also. You mentioned something really important when it comes to, and I know many of the listeners are making for first million a year, or half a million a year. Sometimes we have to go through lessons, quote unquote lessons, because those are going to help you to become the leader that you needed to be in order to attract those clients, to put boundaries, to say yes, like you mentioned, to say no, so many things that in another way it will be not possible. Like, yeah.
Yes. And it is all just comes from your own inner guidance. And that's why with my clients, it's not really like telling them, it's like in my breakthrough sessions, it's all about guiding you to your truth. Like we go into your subconscious, we figure
Mhm.
out where these things, like it's a journey of deep self-discovery. Because to me, that's really, it's our truth that's wanting to come out, And so like the answers have always been within us. Everything else, everyone on the outside is just an activator for our own remembrance
I
from it.
love I love that. Yeah, an expander, an activator.
Yes.
It's not even like someone that I try to mimic. No. And when we hire, like you mentioned, it's important to have mentors or coaches that they can able to see the spotlight, highlight, activate the things that you already have within you.
Yeah, it's so cool. So
Well,
much fun.
good, Jocelyn. Before we wrap up our episode, if you can share with us where we can find you, what is the best way that people can work with you and yeah, experience this magic.
Well, Instagram is my
Um,
favorite platform. Yeah, just because I just love it and I get to put out things that I think are going to ignite, I put out something, I'm like, what's going to ignite people today? What's going to activate something today? And I'll put that out. I also have a free wealth codes group, Facebook group, if anybody wants to join the community and just like because in order to create the spiritual billionaire, we get to do it together. We get to do it collaborations like this right now. And so to me, why not get together a group of people who have the same mindset, who are all
mm,
quantum leaping? So when we collaborate together, we amplify and we compound. And so that's what that free wealth codes group is for everybody to come together, find, other people that are doing this and compound from around the world. When this becomes mainstream, when this talk becomes mainstream, it's just going to be the new reality. It's not even going to be, we're not even going to try. Everyone's going to, when this even coaching and mentoring become mainstream, there's more business for everybody, right? Like everybody gets
yeah.
to thrive. And not just that, we get to help more people to help them to feel the peace and the freedom and the alignment and the truth in our heart like we do. We get to share that with the world as well too. And so it's win-win for everybody.
I love that. Jocelyn, I used to ask just one question before wrapping up every single podcast, but now there's actually two questions. The first one, what is your superpower? And the second one, for this 2025, what is your word? Maybe your word is, well, spiritual billionaire, there's two words, but maybe for you it's expansion, it's evolution, it's growth, it's peace. What it will be for you?
Well, sorry, what was the first question? Because I got caught up in the second question.
What is your superpower?
Oh, I would say transcendence. I would say like being the master alchemist, being able to, I always tell my son we can turn anything into magic and miracles and exponential growth, exponential wealth. And so like that's my superpower is I can turn anything into magic. And
Mm,
then the other thing, and also seeing the highest in everybody and everything, like being able to, I work on seeing people's souls versus the character that they're playing in this reality so that I can connect soul to soul, pure love, right? So, and that to me ripples out into the world. The other one of the word for 2023, I would just say probably expansion, expansion and truth.
I just really love it so much. And I would love to extend on your superpower. And I think even if that, well, people will have access to the YouTube recording also. And but if they're listening via Spotify or Apple, they will literally feel your presence. I think you have this beautiful gift when since the first minute that we have the conversation, I just felt how you were really this beautiful energy that it feels so grounded. And not only that, it feels like sweet, but at the same time expansive and potent, I would say that. So you make people feel really good in your presence. And I think not many people have that power, especially with manifestors, I would say that, because for me, it's like, oh, like like people
But
try to tell me something, it's like, oh, it's either people enter to me with suggestions or not. But for you, like when you were coming into the big space, I just felt this like grounded, steady, beautiful energy. And I just felt so beautiful to be in your presence. I just have to say that.
oh my gosh, thank you so much. That means the world to me. And I feel like your potency and I feel your power and I feel your magnetic energy as well too, and how powerful your podcast is rippling out into the world for all of us. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn. Thank you so much for all of you ladies that are listening to the podcast or are seeing this via YouTube. And we'll see you next week. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Your presence is greatly appreciated and it truly means a lot to me. If you could support us by leaving a 5-star review, it will help us to connect with more extraordinary and influential women like you. With that being said, thanks once again, and let's look forward to an amazing and legendary week ahead.